Is the Boss Metal Zone MT2 really the most hated pedal in the world? Let's see if we can do something about that. I'm going to take this boring, notoriously buzzy pedal and change it into a tone machine. Hello people, Joe from Hello Sailor Effects here. Welcome to today's video. Today we're going to be taking a look at the Boss Metal Zone MT2. Now, I chose this video because such amazing players as Simon Neil from Biffy Clyro, one of my favourite bands, and Prince, yes, that Prince, have used this pedal to great effect. In today's episode, I'm going to show you how to complete a step-by-step guide to change your Boss Metal Zone with the mod known as the Diezel mod. Stay around till the end and you'll see how I change my boring old metal zone into this heavy metal monster. I have of course laid out my PCB and all my components list on one page, so then I can see what I'm doing and make sure that I'm not going to miss anything as I go along. If anyone would like this file with this PCB and parts list on, please write in the comments and I'll get back to you and we'll sort something out where I can email you maybe this file itself. If not, I advise you just to pause it and take a screen grab now and you'll be able to zoom in and see what's going on. Of course, the enclosure, last time lots of people were very enthusiastic about me not using the Boss foot pad. I haven't attached it this time round, so there is the option still to not have it attached. But I have refinished the enclosure as ever because it's me, why not? After the last video, I got quite a few questions of people asking why I was doing certain mods and could I run through the mods and explain what effect they have on the tone. I'm more than happy to do that. If this is something that you would like me to do in the future, please let me know in the comments below and I will continue to do so. Likewise, if you want me to maybe keep these videos brief and just get down to brass tacks and get the mods done so you can copy them paint by numbers, please let me know again in the comments and I will fulfill whatever you people want. To remove the nasally mids and bee in a box type pedal sounds that people describe these pedals for, we are going to remove C35 and C25, which are here and here, and we're also going to replace C34 for a 47 NF cap, and C34 is located here. To make the distortion fuller, we're going to change out D4 and D3, and we're also going to change out C42 for a 100 NF cap. Now D4 and D3 are going to be changed for a 1N4001 diode and also an LED respectively. That will give us asymmetrical clipping. The next mod is described by Brian Wampler, the legend that he is. I'm going to have to stop saying that because basically my videos are becoming a right love fest for Brian Wampler. Apologies. The next mod, basically he describes this as giving it EQ a huge range with many more tones available. Now for me it's probably got too much range, but I stuck with it because it is in fact the Diezel mod for this pedal, so I didn't want to deviate. And that's 100 NF cap is going to be changed for C36 located here. To help with the noise floor, I'm going to change C32 over here for 100 PF film capacitor. That could just help with the background noise. It's not going to affect the tone in any way. Over here we've got R44 located here. We're going to change that for a 100k resistor, and this is going to give the distortion less of a fuzzy edge to it, which, you know, like it or hate it, this isn't a fuzz, it's a high gain pedal, so we want to keep it as distortion, and this will just take the edges off that. Here we've got R15, which is going to be changed for a 47k resistor. Now that's located here on the board, and this is going to give us a better EQ response. Lastly but not leastly, we are going to change R33, which is located here on the board, and we're going to change that for a 10k resistor and a 47 NF capacitor in parallel. Now what this is going to do is give us better EQ pre-clipping. So for those who don't build pedals yourselves, anything you do before the clipping stage is massively amplified after the clipping stage. So if you push loads of bass into the front end of your clipping stage, you're going to get a woofy, low-endy output. And so by changing this, it was just fine-tuning the signal before it goes into the clipping stage. So confusingly enough, we're going to start at the bottom of the page, which is R33. I like to do the resistors first. And then to contradict myself again, I'm going to start with R33, which is indeed a capacitor and a resistor in parallel. R33 is situated here on the board in real time. I'm going to go ahead and remove that from the board, and then I'll show you how I parallel a resistor and a capacitor. In our last video where we modified the Voodoo Octave Fuzz, I was soldering some diodes together, and usually I just rest them on the mat while I'm soldering, and one of the viewers kindly suggested in the comments, thank you very much, why don't you just use blue tack? You can stick your component down, it's not going to move anywhere, and then you can take your other component and also use blue tack to stick that down and then solder them together. Fantastic. I've never done this before, so I may fall flat on my face, but look at that, holds them together, and now all we have to do is wet the tip and give it a solder. Thought I was going to burn my hand then. Right, not convinced on these solder joints, so give it another going over. There we are. Next we're going to move on to R15, which is just below these two ICs here, like so. I'm going to go ahead and replace that with this 47k resistor. That is R15 now changed for the 47k resistor previously mentioned. We're now going to turn our attention to R44, which is sandwiched between C32 and C34. Sorry, that one's, yeah, C32 and C34. Now we're going to be taking out C32 and C34 during our mods, so I'm just going to go ahead and pull them out now, ready for when we change them. There we have C34, R44 and C32 all removed, ready to go. I'm just going to go ahead and change R44 now for this 100k resistor. We're going to look at D3 and D4, which are right in the center of the board here. One thing to note is that the stripe on D3 is pointing to the left hand side, and the stripe on D4 is pointing to the right hand side. So when I come in to fit my 1N4001, I'm going to want my stripe on it, because it's going in a D4 position, to be pointing that direction. It is the direction in which it clips, so it's like it's either going to be clipping the positive section or the negative section of the sine wave. Now I did explain this in my Tube Screamer mod video in a fair bit of depth, probably more depth than you need to know, so I'll link it above, but that's going to be firing in that direction, so I'm going to leave that there. And then with my diode, that's going to be firing the opposite way round, so that the positive on this one, if you haven't got a longer, I've reclaimed this, so the legs, normally the longer leg is the positive, the shorter leg is the negative, but because I can't test that now because I've clipped it from reclaiming it from whatever circuit, inside the diode there's sort of two large like lumps of metal, if you like, and there's a split going down the middle. Now the split leans towards the positive side. Now I should put up a visual on the screen to explain this, hopefully, and if I don't, I apologise, but I want the positive facing in the same direction as the negative on this one, so then they're clipping in opposite directions. So I'm just going to lie that down now. I've been infamous for putting diodes in the wrong way. I mean, if it's symmetrical clipping, i.e. they're both the same diodes, it really doesn't matter. But the Diezel mod, whoever designed this, I'm going to assume it was my mate Brian. Cheers, Brian Wampler. I've never met him, by the way, he's not my mate. I just mention him all the time. So I'm assuming he come up with this mod because it was in his book. So if he's stipulated for them to go that way round, I'm going to put them in that way round. Simple as that. So I'm going to remove these now, remembering that D3 has its negative going that way. Here's another little interesting issue I've run into. So I'm using a tropical fish cap in my R35 parallel circuit that we wired up first. This cap's quite big and I really want to lie it down so it doesn't foul the enclosure or hit anything else. So I'm going to have to lie it there, which is right over the top of where our diodes are. So I am going to mount the diodes on the reverse of the board. So I'll mount the diodes here. What I do need to do is remember that they're the opposite way round from what I stipulated before, because of course the board will be back to front. Again, infamous for putting things in the wrong way round. Now there's our diodes on the underside of the board, which will be the upper side of the board if you turn it over and take the back off, so you'll be able to see that. They'll be covered by a sheet of perspex or whatever it is, plastic, to shield them. And then here we've got our tropical fish cap in parallel with our 10k resistor, which is our 33, now lying down because it's got the space to do so. Next we're going to go on to C32, which is our 100 PF cap, and it is up in this corner here. It's going to be quite hard to get to because it's sandwiched right up against this IC. So I will, of course, because I mean, if you're using a sensible capacitor, you could probably squeeze it in there. However, I'm using this vintage Hunt's 100 PF cap, which is never getting in that gap, as there's another capacitor to go in there too, so I'm probably going to mount this to the underside of the board. Well done, Joe, contradicting yourself as usual. I did manage to squeeze the 100 PF cap on the side here. There was just enough room to get it in. Now we're going to go on to C36, which is a 100 NF cap. I'm using a tropical fish cap, and it's going to go right here. I'm going to go ahead and pull this cap on. C36 now changed for a 100 NF tropical fish cap. As you can see, I had to get creative with the angle of the capacitor to try and fit it in there. Of course, I did have the option to mount it on the other side of the board. You know, it's completely up to you which way round you want to go. Go. Right, next, it's another 100 NF cap, which is C42. And handily, not so much. It's right up the top here, sandwiched by all of these wires for one of our jacks. Now, what I will say is, there's a tendency when you're modding these pedals, there's a tendency when I mod them, don't know about anyone else, I can only speak for myself, that when you put a soldering iron anywhere near one of these wires, you instantly burn it. It's just a fact, it's going to happen. It's an inevitability. Just like if you're at the seaside and you open a packet of chips, there's definitely going to be 5,000 seagulls surrounding you. This is the same thing. You're definitely going to burn it. So just be vigilant and try not to. If you do burn one of these wires, it's not the end of the world. You can heat shrink it or just change the wire for something a bit more suitable. There we have C42 change for the 100 NF tropical fish cap. And now we've got one more cap left to change. That is indeed C34. And that's one that we've already removed down here, if you remember. I'm going to go ahead and put a 47 NF cap in this position here. So that's the last cap replaced over here for a 47 NF. Next, we've got our last two caps to remove, which is C35 located here and C25 here. Now we don't replace them with anything. As you can see, C25 and C35 are now removed from the board. I'm going to go ahead and put this back in the enclosure. Another thing I may not have mentioned so far in the video, but when I purchased this metal zone, the guy selling it stated that the switch was intermittent. Now I've tested this switch to death, and I've tested the pedal to death. I think maybe it was just a loose earth connection inside. However, rather than putting this back in there, because I do want to sell the pedal and it will be available by the time that this video comes out, I'm just going to put in a brand new switch just to be on the safe side. That is this pedal now complete and back together. I've put the Boss foot pad on just for now. However, I haven't glued it down so it can be removed. Please let me know in the comments what you think of the mod process so far. If there's any ways to improve my videos, I'm all ears. I'd love to hear it. And without further ado, here is the sound test.